Bismillah wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulillah. I'd like to thank once again the participants of the first Tesselate garden series installation on soil. This is day 8 of our communal compost that we built together. Day 8 marks the end of the really hot compost. In the last video, if you saw the last video, I kind of screamed because it was hot. It's hot. It's uncomfortably hot. I don't know if it's hot enough to burn you. I was not going to keep my hand in there long enough to find out. So today we're going to do the same thing. I'll turn off the camera, uncover the pile, inshallah, test to see how hot it is. It should be about as hot as it's going to get. Then from this point on, the heat should start decreasing. Things should start looking more like the finished product that we want it to look like. So I'll turn off the camera and get right to it. Okay, here it is. I'm back. This is the pile. This is what it looks like now. It does look considerably darker than it did 2 days ago, but you can still see whole chunks of that wheat straw. So the wheat straw hasn't completely broken down, and that is totally understandable because it's just day 8, which means we have 10 more days of this and about 4 or 5 more turns. So I'm going to try and work quickly. The wind is blowing. I don't want the pile to cool down too much, but it happens. But because of the microbiology that's going on, it should heat right back up. But let's go ahead and do our heat test, our moisture test. As far as the smell goes, it smelled earthy, kind of the smell you smell if you're ever in a forest. If you've ever been to a forest, that forest floor smell, that's basically what you smell at this point. There are no sewagey smells, no rank smells, no manure smells that would make you turn away. It's not a smelly process. If you get some off odors, that means something is wrong. So this pile has been kept about where it should be moisture-wise. It's about the size that it should be in order to compost. Like I said, things were quite hot last time, so let's just check it out. Okay, it's warm. It's warm to the touch of the top. I'm not even in the middle. Yeah, that's hot. That's good enough. That's hot. That's uncomfortably hot. It's at the point where I can't put my hand in it. Just like before, for whatever reason, the left side of this pile seems to be cold, but that could be from the wind blowing just now, which is it's blowing from the west. And I'm on the western side of the building, and so that's understandable that because this was wet, the wind blew across it, it's cooling down. But in the center, it's burning hot like it was before, and so that's pretty good. We still have a little bit of that powdery white stuff that we were saying when you hit a patch of high nitrogen, you get that. There is some steam coming off the pile. I don't think my camera can catch it, but yep, there it is. That's steam. So I've got a steaming pile in basically the middle of the UAE winter. So that tells you that pile is considerably hotter than the ambient temperature. A little bit more of that white stuff we were talking about, but I believe that's the nitrogen that you get from the greens. If you look closely, you might be able to see it there. Hopefully it shows on the camera. But that's it. That's normal. With my experience, that's normal. It does go away. Try to squeeze test to see if we get anything. Yep, it's definitely wet. That was about 3 drops. So I'm going to turn it, but keep in mind that you do get wet spots sometimes, and that's one of the benefits of turning it. One of the benefits of turning it is that you get the dry spots wet, and you get the wet spots to dry out. So I'm going to turn the camera off, and get the turning. Just to remind you, you want to go outside, in. So I'm going that way. Right, with my pile until I run out of space, and then I'll come back the other way until I run out of space, and like such. If you're in an area where you don't have a lot of space, basically you just go back and forth until you've reached the end of the 18 days or until your compost is how you like it. I'm going to turn the camera off and get to work. Okay, I'm back. That's it. The pile has been moved, as you can see. The new pile, I'm going to try to move the camera, excuse me, is to the left, like I said, and that's it. That's the new pile. There's still some steam coming off the pile, or at least there was before the wind started blowing. I'm gonna quickly cover it back up, wrap everything back up tightly, inshallah, and we'll be back in 2 days to see the progress. So I'll see you in 2 days. This is what the pile looks like on the 10th day. It's time to turn it once again. We do want to check it. Just from looking at it from here, it looks like the moisture levels are right spot on where they need to be, and that's good news. I haven't touched it yet to see what the temperatures are like. Days 6 to 8 are when the compost should be at its hottest, and as you would remember from the other videos, it was really hot. It was uncomfortably hot. I did not feel safe leaving my hand in that pile, just to put it quite frankly. So that's about how hot it should be, between 50 and 70 degrees. Somewhere between 55 and 65 being the optimal temperature. I don't use thermometers. I use touch and experience. It wouldn't hurt you to get a thermometer. So let's get right into it. I'm going to walk over, check the pile for moisture, see what the temperature's like, see what the condition is like, and it already looks darker from here. Let's check it out. Okay, it's warm to the touch on top. It's still hot in the center. Okay, this pile is cranking. It's still hot. I don't have a thermometer like I mentioned to check to see how hot, but I can hold my fingers in there. It's uncomfortable, but it didn't give me that scream that it did the first time. But I can tell if I go any further, it will be uncomfortably hot. Yeah, that's still hot. And I'm not sure if the camera can catch that, but there's steam coming out of it, just like there was on days 4, 5, 6. Rather on days 4 when I checked, day 6 and day 8. So it is hot. It's uncomfortably hot, but it's still, I can tell it's still not as hot as it was before. So it looks like it's cooling down, but it's still hot because it has a lot of work to do. As you can see, there's still some obvious materials that look pretty much like they did the day we put them in, with the exception of the color change. And it seems like everything in the pile is hydrated now, whereas the first couple of times we checked, there were still chunks of dry material. Everything is nice and moist now. As you can see, this is straw, which I'm breaking apart with little pressure from my fingers and my fingernail. All right, there we go. So that's the progress of our pile. I'm going to turn this. If I see anything notable, turn the camera back on and tell you about it, and finish shoveling the pile to my left. Okay, I'm barely through the top of the pile. I've already made a couple of observations that I want you to know about. As you can see, I have a shovel full. I just realized I might not have been giving you guys good close-ups of what's going on. But if you remember what those piles look like when you formed them at Village Garden Center, this is a whole lot different. It's way darker. You can see little pockets of what looks like soil starting to form. And also, you can see the white specks. You've got to actually search for them now. They're starting to disappear. So that means the compost pile is starting to come together. And just like I said before, that there was no need to fear about those pockets of powdery white, because they should go away as the compost process goes on. The moisture is dead on. I've got to squeeze pretty hard to get that one drop. It's sometimes described as the amount of moisture you would have in a sponge after you've squeezed your sponge out. So if I squeeze, there probably should be a drop or two that comes through my knuckles. If we can get it. There it is right there. There's your one drop. That's it. We are exactly where we need to be moisture-wise. And look at that. There you go. It's barely breaking apart. So it's starting to get that glue that holds your soil together. But you still got that crummy type structure starting to form. So we're on our way. Some of the larger pieces of wood. It's expected that this won't compost by the end of our 18-day compost. But the rest of this it should, inshallah, turn into something closer to those dark pieces that we see. So we've got good color, we've got good moisture. The white specks are starting to go away. We are on our way. I'm gonna turn the camera off and finish turning the pile. And inshallah, if there's anything notable to tell you about, I'll turn the camera back on. Okay, and I'm back. It is very windy where I live. I decided to go ahead and film because I want to get that pile covered back up to try and keep from losing a lot of heat. So I didn't want to wait any longer. I'm going ahead and filming. There it is. That's your day 10 compost right there. It's looking more and more like compost as it goes along. You can review the earlier videos to see if you can see the color change if it picks up on camera. But that's it. So I'll see you guys day 12.